When it comes to human behavior, emotions, and thinking, the adage, "the more I learn, the less I know," is right on. I've learned to give up my pursuit of netting certainty and pinning it to the wall. Some days I miss pretending that certitude is within reach. My husband Steve always knows when I'm mourning the loss of my young researcher quest, when I'm holed up in my study listening to David Gray's song, My Oh My, on repeat. My favorite lyrics are, "What on earth is going on in my head? You know I used to be so sure. You know, I used to be so definite." And it's not just the lyrics, it's the way he sings the word definite. Sometimes it sounds to me as if he's mocking the arrogance of believing that we can ever know everything. And other times it sounds like he's pissed off that we can't. Either way, singing along makes me feel better. Music always makes me feel less alone in the mess. While there are really no hard and fast absolutes in my field, there are truths about shared experiences that deeply resonate with what we believe and know. For example, the Roosevelt quote that anchors my research on vulnerability and daring gave birth to 3 truths for me. Number 1, I want to be in the arena. I want to be brave with my life. And when we make the choice to dare greatly, we sign up to get our asses kicked. We can choose courage or we can choose comfort, but we cannot have both, not at the same time. Number 2, vulnerability is not winning or losing. It's having the courage to show up and be seen when we have no control over the outcome. Vulnerability is not weakness. It is our most accurate measure of courage. Number 3, a lot of cheap seats in the arena are filled with people who never venture onto the floor. They just hurl mean-spirited criticisms and put-downs from a very safe distance. The problem is, when we stop caring what people think and stop feeling hurt by cruelty, we lose our ability to connect. But when we're defined by what people think, we lose the courage to be vulnerable. Therefore, we need to be selective about the feedback we let into our lives. For me, if you're not in the arena getting your ass kicked, I'm not interested in your feedback. I don't think of these as rules, but they have certainly become guiding principles for me. I believe there are also some basic tenets about being brave, risking vulnerability, and overcoming adversity that are useful to understand before we get started. I think of these as the basic laws of emotional physics, simple but powerful truths that help us understand why courage is both transformational and rare. These are the rules of engagement for rising strong. 1. If we are brave enough often enough, we will fall. This is the physics of vulnerability. When we commit to showing up and risking falling, we are actually committing to falling. Daring is not saying, "Oh, I'm willing to risk failure." Daring is saying, "I know I will eventually fail, and I am still in." Fortune may favor the bold, but so does failure. 2. Once we fall in the service of being brave, we can never go back. We can rise up from our failures, screw-ups, and falls, but we can never go back to where we stood before we were brave or before we fell. Courage transforms the emotional structure of our being. This change often brings a deep sense of loss. During the process of rising, we sometimes find ourselves homesick for a place that no longer exists. We want to go back to that moment before we walked into the arena, but there's nowhere to go back to. What makes this more difficult is that now we have a new level of awareness about what it means to be brave. We cannot fake it anymore. We now know when we're showing up and when we're hiding out, when we are living our values and when we are not. Our new awareness can also be invigorating. It can reignite our sense of purpose and remind us of our commitment to wholeheartedness. Straddling the tension that lies between wanting to go back to the moment before we risked and fell and being pulled forward to even greater courage is an inescapable part of rising strong.